Is Blue Beetle finally what DC needs to get back on track? Let's find out. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm giving you my review of Blue Beetle, the new DC film starring Xolo Maridueña in the lead role. And before I give you guys my thoughts on this movie, be sure to hit that like button, comment down below your thoughts on the film if you've seen it, your predictions or expectations for it if you have not yet watched it. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 85,000 subscribers here on the channel. And check out my Patreon link down below for extra content, access to the Discord server, and more. Your support goes a long way over there. But let's just dive right in. Let's cut the nonsense here. So I was super excited for this movie because I love Cobra Kai, as you guys can tell from the background. I actually met Xolo Maridueña at MegaCon this year, and he's just such a down-to-earth, cool dude. And so, of course, I was excited for him to be headlining this movie, this superhero movie in the DC world. And unfortunately, I walk away fairly disappointed with this movie. Now, I'll start with the things that I absolutely dug and enjoyed with this movie. Xolo Maridueña is #1 on that list. His performance as Jaime Reyes is what this movie's all about. He is this 22-year-old kid who just graduated college, and he's having to juggle this family life with his own passions and goals. And in fact, the family story, the family dynamic takes the forefront in this movie overall. You've got Xolo's character Jaime, who just wants to get out of, his hometown and be his own person, where in reality he's being held back by some things at home that arise. But they do a good job of establishing the family dynamic early on, and that was a strong point in the movie, along with Xolo's performance. He has so much heart in it, and he brings that in Cobra Kai's Miguel Diaz. Like, we already knew that he was an absolute star. This movie will get more eyes on him and hopefully land him even bigger roles in the future. I'm fully rooting for Xolo, and he carries this movie on his back, in my opinion. I'll also shout out the humor in this movie, specifically with the character Rudy, played by George Lopez. He's the uncle of the family who's sort of like this anti-government tech guy, and he's really hilarious at times. Like, my whole theater was uproaring in laughter with certain bits that he would have. He definitely added the most levity to the film, but at the same time there was some humor that didn't work. I'll get into that later on. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention the actual Blue Beetle suit in this movie. Oh, does it look so good, especially on the big screen. I mean, this is a blend of practical and CGI done right. It looks so good, and oftentimes in superhero films, suits will just look so CGI fake that it can almost remove you from the movie. In this film, I feel like the majority of the budget went to making this Blue Beetle suit look as perfect as possible, and that's the case here. It could be the different weaponry the suit has to offer, or just the sleek look of it. No matter what, it looks damn good on screen, and Xolo plays this role so well. He's almost born to play Jaime Reyes, I would say. Like, he is so great in this movie, and like I said, he is by far the strong point. So Blue Beetle has its highlights, like I mentioned, some performances, some humor, the suit. But when I take a step back and look at the movie as a whole, I can't help but feel as though it's fundamentally flawed. Now, I'll start with the fact that the main plotline is generic as hell. And I don't want to use the word generic a million times, that would be kind of generic, right? But this movie genuinely has no surprises up its sleeve. I describe it like this. When the movie comes on and the opening plays out and then we go into the credits, I kind of watched the whole movie flash before my eyes. Much like people say they watch their life flash before their eyes as they're about to die, you can see all the events go by your eyes in the blink of an eye. Well, with this, it's like I could watch every major plot point blink by as they happened. And it reigned true. The movie's extremely predictable, and that's never what I want in a superhero movie. Like, I love when movies take risks and break from the superhero movie mold or formula. Look at Guardians 3, look at Across the Spider-Verse. Those are vastly different from this superhero movie template that's been established over the past, 2 or 3 decades now. And this movie just felt pretty stale in terms of doing anything new. And I think a big contributing factor to why this feels so repetitive is because it's got yet another throwaway comic book movie villain, and there's no like fresh antagonist in the film to really pose a threat to Jaime Reyes' character, his family. It's just something we've seen a million times. In fact, a lot of major scenes in this movie, whether it involves a hero or a villain or just like a big moment in the movie, feels like another iconic or memorable superhero movie scene that's just taken directly from that movie and repurposed. Whether that's Iron Man, Iron Man 2, something from a Spider-Man film, even Venom. The list goes on and on. It's really nothing that new, and it just felt repurposed for Blue Beetle, and I really thought this movie was gonna gonna take risks and try something new stylistically or, you know, from an actual plot perspective, and it just didn't do that. I was just stunned that it kept going the super predictable route. It had all the superhero movie tropes in the book and all the cliches, and I just got sick of it at a certain point. It's really unfortunate that Blue Beetle's the movie that opened my eyes to the genuine superhero movie saturation we're living in, but that was the case. Like, one of my least favorite things, and they do it in the Shazam movies all the time, and a lot of movies at that are in the superhero genre, is when a character will like have powers or something and be like, oh, I can fly now. And it's like, yeah, we know. A lot of the dialogue in this movie is just a character repeating something on screen, and I don't know if it's like tried to play for a joke or something. It just missed every single time for me. It's like, we know, we're watching it, and there's really no need to say it out loud. Is anyone in real life ever gonna sit here and say, oh, my hands are guns now? It's like, yeah, we can see that. Oh man, and again, that's all on the writing, nothing to do with Xolo. Like, superhero movie fatigue was fully on display here, and like I said, it sucks that Blue Beetle's the movie that made me realize that, but I was just watching this and I was like, man, this is a movie I've seen 10 different times just repurposed with Blue Beetle, and it didn't really do anything for me in terms of being a truly original origin story. I'd say the strong point was that family dynamic and taking a deep dive into Jaime's family and the relationship there. That was the strong selling point of the film, and while it did dive into that at times, I almost wish that was on full display here instead of shoehorning in this main villain plotline that you can see where it's going to end from a mile away, and it just got exhausting at a certain point. I was like, man, this movie had so much promise, so much potential early on, and it just ended up becoming another generic superhero movie that we've seen a million times. And one other thing that's less of a critique of the film, more of just some commentary on the current state of DC, is where does this movie fit in? There are references to Batman, there are references to The Flash. I'm not going to say how or why, they're not that major, but it would make you think that this movie was designed to function in the DCEU before James Gunn came in. And I think there's an interview with James Gunn saying, like, Blue Beetle's character is going to stick around, but this movie isn't going to be canon to the DCEU. That's something I may have to do a deep dive in, but this movie and The Flash and all the recent DC films haven't made audiences fully aware of the timeline, and I feel like that's just going to become an even bigger issue as we introduce a new Superman and a new Batman within this world. What movies take place in what timeline? What is the main timeline? I stand by this. We need James Gunn to come out and just literally look into a camera and tell us, hey guys, this is the DC timeline, because unfortunately it's been so screwed up over the years by all the different films clashing. Look, at the end of the day, I don't love Blue Beetle. I don't hate Blue Beetle. I'm not crazy about the movie, but there's a lot to like here, and I think that's all right. I went on this little rant in my out of theater reaction, you guys can check it out linked up above, where I was like, we live in a society where there's just no middle ground on movies, and it's true. It's either like you have to love it or hate it, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this video will take and run with it and say, oh, I absolutely hate it. That's not the case here. I think there's a lot to enjoy in this movie. Xolo Maridueña's performance in particular. I got some great laughs. There's some action that works for me. But all in all, I can't help but think, man, this movie could have been so much better, so much more original, and instead I sit here and I go, it's something I've seen before, and I'm not really blown away by it, unfortunately. So, Blue Beetle's a fine enough movie. I did not hate my time. Didn't love my time. I had a smile on my face at moments, but I have a lot of issues. It's in that middle ground. It's a gray area type of movie where I can pick out things I like, I can pick out things I don't like. And there's a lot of movies like that, and I think that specifically here on YouTube or wherever people review movies, that can get lost in translation, and people can be like, no, you love it or you hate it, and that's the only way it can be. Blue Beetle's one of those middle ground movies for me. Anywhere from like a 2.75 to a 3.25 out of 5. Anywhere in that range is where Blue Beetle falls. A rewatch of this movie could elevate it, it could bring it down for me. Only time will tell. The more I think about it, the more little nitpicks I have with it, but I also enjoy more elements. So it's just one of those middle ground type movies that I had a lot more hopes for, and unfortunately the movie wasn't as great as I really thought it could have been. But that's just my take, my 2 cents, my opinion on Blue Beetle. Let me know yours in the comments down below if you've seen the movie. If you haven't, let me know your predictions or expectations. Subscribe to that notification bell to help reach my goal of 85,000 subscribers here on the channel, and check out my Patreon link down below. Anything goes a long way over there. Stay tuned for lots more DC content coming this weekend, reacting to your DC hot takes, DC movies tier list, all that good stuff. You guys are the best as always. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.